Welcome back, everyone. Well, I guess it's not so much a welcome back. It's kind of a not so welcome back. Now, I did a video series exploring the psychological issues and a lot of the different aspects and arguments that pedophiles use. And, well, you know, for the most part, they are off of YouTube. And my goal was to never chase them off of YouTube or anything like that, but to point them in the direction that they will point people to point them, to get them in the direction that they need to be, which is that especially if they have prior convictions of pedophilia, they shouldn't be accessing the internet. Shouldn't be happening. And at least if they do, their access to the internet is usually highly monitored. ShoeOnHead recently made a video about MAPS, minor attracted persons, or no MAPS, no contact minor attracted person. They're using another code word as well called AOA, which is age of attraction. And I wanted to look into it myself because I see myself as a big advocate against pedophilia. I've turned one in before, and I kind of wanted to remind people because I feel like everything that needs to be said about their arguments I have already covered in a series of videos that I've done before on these pedophiles. And now they're running rampant on Twitter. And so I thought that we could take a quick look at some of the Twitter feed now. So really, ShoeOnHead did a lot of the work for me. You can see this. So we have somebody here that has the preference of age 9 to 14. Another one with age 7 to 12. Also, everyone remember that the rainbow guy is under 16, so let's keep this under terms nothing overly sexual. I think that goes without saying. No pictures. And then they say, this person, are you really a necrophile? I am too, but I didn't know. This other person says they're into girls 3 to 10. This Robert West person, 50-year-old. So, Shoe really helped me out in this, is that I was able to just go in there and jump right in and find who these people were. So here's like the following of one of this group of people, and this all over the place. It's like, I'm not a minor attracted person, but I support them, or I make art for them, and a lot of it is, I'm a minor attracted person, and I like, this is my particular preference in age, and blah, 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 blah. Some people go into necrophilia. Some people go into bestiality. Some outright say that they do not condone violence against children, even though the act itself is violence against a child. They use the term no map to say that they're no contact, and I suppose that's the most basic you're going to get on non-violent interactions, and they don't interact with children at all. And that's the way it should be. They don't need to be around children. Some outright advocate, just outright advocate for violence against children. They want it no matter what, no matter what cost. So these people all right here. Finding them is tough. You are not going to find them just by typing in map. See, that person, ally, they say that they're a liberal, they're an ally of maps, but they themselves are not one. And that's something that I just can't understand. Like, why would you make an alliance with a group of people like that? And this is something that touches all over the world. This is just one person's profile. I seem to see a lot of, like, going through the profiles, they have a lot of similar faces. So it's like, this is a group that seems to know each other quite a bit. And it's pretty disturbing, you know? It's pretty fucked up that you can look through all this shit. Okay. So, I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of the people in there seem to be not necessarily pedophiles themselves, but more or less, like, some of them actually said that they are in support of MAPs, of minor attracted persons, of pedophiles. Let's just call them that because that's what it is pedophilia. And it's like they're in support because it's supposed to be the liberal thing to do. But to engage in a sexual act upon a child is imposing your will on someone else against their own will. A great line by Ani DeFranco is, I was 11 years old, he was as old as my dad, and he took something from me that I didn't even know that I had. So don't tell me about decency, and don't tell me about pride. And then she goes into a different course of the song. The song's it's called Letter to a John. But where did my vape go? Fuck. She's talking about how, like, many people who have been, like, introduced to sexuality early on in life, rape, you know, that these pedophiles, they want to say that it's not fucking rape. But a child, when they consent to such a thing, they don't really know what it is that they're consenting to. And the amount of psychological problems that occurs, even if you think they're consenting, is astronomical. They do not know how to have a healthy sex life later on in their adult years. They just don't. It comes with an abundant amount of psychological problems. So I thought that I would recap some of the important things to remember about these people. 1. Pedophilia is not a sexual orientation. Now, there are many different reasons why they are not a sexual orientation. ShoeOnHead points out the fact that children eventually grow up. Well, yes, that's true. But another thing that I would like to point out is this is clearly indicative of some kind of mental disorder. And you can see them even talk about it if you actually pay attention to their little feeds. They talk about going through therapy over and there is no cure for it. They're absolutely right about that. My cat is playing. Don't show up on the video, Smokey. Some of these people are attracted, well, not attracted. They have some kind of weird sexual fascination with animals and bestiality. But predominantly, what this is, what necrophilia, because some of them have been necrophiles, which 17 years old, you're going to claim that you're a necrophile. I really doubt that a 17-year-old has been exposed to a dead body to think about having sex with it. Unless they have a really fucked up childhood. I just don't believe it. I either don't believe that they're 16 or I don't believe that they're a necrophile or even know what that really is. And if they were actually confronted with such a thing in real life, they'd probably run and scream. I have seen rotting corpses. I don't know why anyone would want to have sex with one. And if you really want me, I'll be personal. My little brother passed away. He rotted in his apartment for 7 days. It's disgusting. It's gross. But again, it's not a sexual orientation. For one, it causes a great amount of psychological harm to the person that they're doing, the thing that they're doing. Well, not a dead body, obviously, but the reason they don't classify it as a sexual orientation predominantly is because the psychological aspect of necrophilia, bestiality, and pedophilia has to do with being able to impose power or dominate something that is weaker than yourself. So these are people ultimately that have a huge power struggle in their mind. Oftentimes they're very, very abusive and violent when they engage in an actual relationship with somebody of their own age. Be that homosexual, heterosexual, bisexual, that doesn't matter. You can be homosexual, bisexual, and heterosexual and still be any of those things. It's not a sexual orientation, you guys. It's not. In fact, the people that we have chemically castrated that are pedophiles and zoophiles. Zoophile is not an actual appropriate term for them. A zoophile is somebody who studies zoology, but that's what they call themselves, zoophiles. So it's not a sexual orientation, so we're not going on that myth. Second thing to remember about these people: harassing them and reporting them to social media doesn't work. All right, so if you report these people to Twitter and say they're doing a bunch of obnoxious shit, you're going to push them underground. And they'll be out on the streets to do whatever. Don't be giving death threats and everything. I understand why you want to kill these people. I really do. But it won't solve anything. It's not going to solve anything. I know I just said, but the people who get chemically castrated, they find other ways to assault, because ultimately it's not a sexual act. It's an act of violence. It's an act of being able to impose one's will on others deliberately. In all forms of that definition, impose one's will on others against their own will. They're trying to dominate something weaker than themselves. All right, so violence is not the answer. Threatening to kill them is not the answer. Encouraging them to commit suicide isn't the answer. These people need to be monitored by a psychiatrist, psychologist, and the legal, like the police, the local law enforcement needs to be able to know what these people are doing. So the best thing to do is not report them to Twitter, YouTube, or whatever social media you're finding them on. Report them to the local authorities so that they can keep tabs on them. Yes, ultimately they'll never be fixed. They've got, it's fucked up. It's like having a mood disorder. There's nothing that's going to fix it. Nothing that we know of yet. Maybe something in the future. So that isn't, the answer is reporting them to the authorities. Don't let them know you're going to do that. Just do it. Just do it. Flat out. Just do it. You say that there is a problem on Twitter of this infestation of pedophiles. That's the best way to deal with it. not sending them death threats, not reporting them, not harassing them. Just report them to the authorities. Tweet them at the FBI if you have to. But let them know that they're there and what they're talking about, because when these people get together and start having conversations, they'll establish an online network with each other so that they can exchange illegal data. When I say illegal data, I'm talking about pictures and videos and shit that really is basically the deconstruction of a person's life and unnecessarily damaging or beating the shit out of, like, just horrifying an animal. Like, it's not appropriate. And if you want to know that bestiality is harmful to the animal, then you can go and look at some of the animals that have been dropped off at animal havens, because a lot of the time there's infections and even death and all kinds of things that happen to the animals because of these things. So it is harmful to the animal to do this. So some other things that I wanted to also discuss is that the emotional blackmail that's involved. This is a liberal thing to do. Just because you support the maps doesn't mean that look, there has to be a fine line of saying, I understand you have a mental illness, but that doesn't mean that I support you. I mean, it's just like the BTK killer. People with like sociopathy and psychopathy. Somebody got onto me about that once. So multiple personality disorder or personality disorder. Whatever, take your fucking pick in the semantics. Just because they have a disorder doesn't mean that I'm going to support them going out and murdering and raping a bunch of people. That's just stupid. Cannibalizing, that's stupid. No. You can raise a mental health awareness for something like that, but I don't think that saying, no, we need to coddle them and cradle them and it's okay because they can't help it. No, it's not okay. It's not okay that they can't help it. It's not okay. They need to keep it under control. And that's the problem when a bunch of them are getting together and talking about things, is they're not under control anymore. There's the possibility of, like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to, I'm being a productive member of society, and then they start talking to a bunch of them, and they go, oop, I went off, derailed. And that's the real concern, is that they're all grouped up together on one platform where they can very easily share media with each other. And that's the really concerning part, is how many children will end up being essentially abused. It's like one of the highest levels of abuse you can possibly think of, and ruin their life before, like I said, going in and harassing and bullying them isn't going to stop them from that action, but bringing the law into it, where they can monitor what these people are talking about and the media exchanges that they are going through online, on Twitter, even in private messages, is absolutely important. So I guess that would be the third thing. Don't lose your shit. Keep your cool. Report them to the authorities. And believe me, the authorities, and I know this from personal experience from turning a pedophile in, they do have the resources to monitor their private conversations, which is something detectives that work in cybergrams divisions will do. They can monitor their emails, they can monitor the DMs, they can do that. They have the technology to do that. So please report them to the authorities. chasing them off of a social media platform just pushes them further into hiding, and they will be more than likely become radicalized and go out and seek out that behavior. And as I've discussed in the previous video, a lot of the times once they seek that behavior out, that becomes not enough, and eventually it does turn into murder, whether they mean it to turn that direction or not. A lot of the times, if they go unchecked, it will eventually lead to murder. And that comes from criminal psychology, if you want to know. So the other interesting thing that I want to talk about is that a lot of the profiles I looked at were very young people, what I would consider to be very young people, people proclaiming to be between the ages of, I don't know, 15 to 22. And I find that to be really odd that anybody in that kind of very young age bracket would have that kind of concept. And it makes me think to myself, like, what on earth did they become exposed to make them think that to get anywhere near the thought that this is acceptable behavior? Because I'm telling you, it is not a sexual orientation. I can look back in my life and know that I was always a homosexual. I can do that because I've always been attracted to other males my own fucking age. A pedophile can't do that. A pedophile can't look back on their life and go, well, I've always been attracted to young people. Well, when you were 6 and you were or maybe not 6, but and you have to keep in mind, when I say attracted, I mean like crushing, not sexual. You haven't hit puberty at 6, but you still have crushes. So how can you look back and say, well, that crush has to be because they were, like when they look back, they say, well, how can it be a crush? Or like, how can it not be a crush? When I look back and say that, all these people around me I was attracted to. When they say things like that, it's like, well, most people have crushes before they hit puberty. And that moves along as they get older. Now after post-pubescent, 16, saying, I'm a pedophile, that is a bizarre concept. That makes me think that they've been exposed to something, and that probably has a lot to do with things that have been going on online. And to be quite frank, to be honest, the pedophile community has tried time and time again to ride on the back of civil rights and civil liberties with the LGBT community. And they have never gotten a footing in that. The LGBT community rejects it up and down. It's vile. I mean, there's just no other word for it. It's just such a vile thing to do. Now, I'm trying to be diplomatic and remove myself, and look at it from kind of a psychologist, the perspective they would. Yeah, they might be disgusted and sickened, but you have to look at this from a psychological perspective. That, yeah, it is vile, but I would not encourage anyone to let themselves be ruled by their hate when it comes to this. And it's hard to do. I get it. It's hard. Where was I going with that? But what I'm trying to get at is that if you attack these people, then that will be on you as far as the law is concerned. And look at it from an objective standpoint and understand that if they engage in that kind of behavior, then they need to go directly to jail. But I mean, making the law aware of it is the best thing you can do for anyone involved. I'm going to try to figure out where teenagers would get this weird information, or whether we get the idea that they are a pedophile, somebody who wants to engage in bestiality, or somebody who wants to engage in necrophilia. I would want to know where they would get exposed to that kind of nonsense, and kind of stomp it out at the root of the problem. Who's convincing them of this? So no, don't support them, don't have their back, but don't, like I said, leave it in the hands of the law. And I understand the want and desire, I really truly do. I understand the want and desire to want to beat them up, to want to send death threats, etc., etc. I know you want them to die. I get it. But the best thing you can do for everyone involved is to turn them into the authorities. Okay? Sucks. I know it sucks. You want to take matters into your own hands. Don't do it. Turn them into the police. Turn them into the FBI. In one of my videos, I did offer the entire listing of all FBI phone numbers for all 50 states. I will try and find that within that video collection. If I do, I will leave it in the description of this video below. I just wanted to remind everybody of this. If this infestation is happening on Twitter, pushing them off of Twitter, well, they'll just find some other space to be. But making the law aware of it, they can actually monitor and make sure they're not participating in illegal activity and just talking about their mental illness. And that's the best you can hope for with these people, is that they do not participate and that maybe merely only engage in discussion about their mental affliction. And that's about as nice as I'm going to get about it, calling it a mental affliction. That's as nice as I can possibly fucking be. So, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I know a lot of people are going to say, kill him. And I understand. I get it. I can't advocate or condone violence. I get it. But I really strongly recommend turning them into the authorities. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Like, share, subscribe. Hit the bell button on any channel you're subscribed to. And with that, I'm out. Hey everybody, I just wanted you to know that I actually went in investigation, and I started asking some questions. And just to back up my claim that this is a struggle of dominance, we have a response from this person. It says, it depends on the animal, and it's honestly really hard to put into words, and it goes beyond sexual things. Okay, so it's not a sexual orientation, admitted right there. In general, the easiest explanation is for the sexual side, which pretty much any big and intimidating animal, it's because I like the idea of being dominated by something huge and kind of torn apart while I am being fucked. And so then I asked him, so have you considered like BDSM as an alternative? And he responds by saying, it's not about alternatives, not like I can choose what I'm into. Yeah, you kind of can when it comes to this. It's not just about the dominancy thing. I'm into BDSM as well, though. Well, isn't that a fucking shock? Why am I not surprised that somebody who has dominancy issues would also be, I would consider BDSM to be a much healthier alternative, a much healthier way of expressing this issue sexually than bestiality, necromancy, and pedophilia. Seriously. And also on the link things, I thought, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to go through and I'm going to get ShoeOnHead's video, and I'm going to get my video series on pedophiles, and I will just leave the links to all of those in the description below. So if you haven't seen the video series that I've done on pedophiles, look for in the description below. I'll have that, as well as June's video that led me to discover this in the first place. And yeah, with that out. Fucking pedophiles again, really?